question in the group from Kamal and Elizabeth regarding handling staff. Now, staff is usually the number one issue that salon owners with a team experience. I was not exempt from that. I had a team of 5, I think, at one stage, and that was always what was the number one issue, running around putting out fires with staff all the time. And it never seemed to end. And I made a lot of mistakes with staff. Happy to put my hand up and admit that. But since embarking on my business coaching adventure, I looked into staff in detail because I knew what I'd experienced, and I knew that salon owners just like you were experiencing the same thing, and there had to be answers, and there is. And I did find the answers, and I collated all of those answers together in my Staffing 101. But to address the questions that Elizabeth brought up was some of the issues was things like competition for clients, dress code, general everyday issues, and helping them to understand to be part of a team. Now, everything there starts with your foundation in your business, in your salon, clinic, or spa. And the absolute foundation that everything else sits on top of is your values. Now, without having values established in your business, everything else just crumbles. It's like there's no platform for everything else to sit on. So, as an example, if you've got values such as customer service, team members supporting each other, punctuality, then you can rely on those 3 values of your business. So, for example, if a particular staff member is always arriving late, you refer them back to your salon values. One of our values is punctuality. So is what you're doing in alignment with the salon values? And then that staff member would promptly realize, well, yeah, no, I'm not actually. So it also takes the onus away from you as the owner sort of standing there waving a stick saying, you're coming in late to work and it's giving me the, it's referring to almost like this third entity, which is the values. That's the foundation that everything relies on. So it's like, well, is what you're, coming in late, is that in alignment with the values? So it's not like, is it upsetting me as the owner and look what you're doing to me sort of thing. It's, is it in alignment with the values? The other thing regarding the dress code, that should be established right at the get-go. I used to establish that at interview stage. I would have the policy there, and we had a dress code policy. And at interview, I would say, is it a problem that if your hair is longer than shoulder length, that it's tied up? There is no long dangly earrings. There's no jewelry per se. There is no long fingernails. You must wear this uniform top that's supplied. You must have black pants, closed-in shoes. Whatever it is that your dress code policy is, you establish that from the start. It's like a 2-year-old. They need those boundaries to know that when they step out of a boundary, there can be consequences. So that's why dress code is established right at the start as a boundary. It's a bit harder in a salon environment like hairdressing salons, because a lot of those salons, they don't have a dress code per se, because everybody's just rocking up in whatever, because it's kind of a bit of a fashion statement as well in the hair salon environment. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't establish that midriff must not be showing, no open back, I don't know, whatever it is that suits your values, because it would depend on your clientele as well. So it's about boundaries, and it's about establishing what those values are. Now, how do you establish your values? You don't just pull those out of a hat. You sit down with your team, and I actually have an exercise that you can go through that will, all of you as a group will establish up to 3, even 5 core values of your salon. And that's the foundation that everything is built on. One example was competition for clients. Now, if your values are supporting each other, then there wouldn't be that competition for clients, because you would have a support network. So it could be, Sally hasn't had many new clients this week, or the team gets together and they decide how new clients are distributed through your business. A lot of stylists say, okay, all new clients go to the most senior staff first so that they get the best experience, and then you can trickle them down and distribute them to other stylists. I don't necessarily agree with that, because for the number one reason that every client that comes through, no matter the hierarchy of the stylist, the client journey should be that foundation that is the same with whoever a client sees in your salon. So that's how you would handle competition for clients, dress code, general everyday issues. That always comes back to the values. I could go on to other things that would support those issues that you've brought up. I'll quickly show you what's in the Staffing 101, because it goes into so much more detail. Foundation values is just the very first thing. In the module, I've got from recruiting to interviewing, induction, understanding personality types, which is really, really important. And also here we are with the values exercise. Different people have different learning styles, and when you can understand their different learning styles, it makes so much more sense. The other thing is love languages. If you're not talking your staff members' language, and that could be like, let's say that somebody has done a really great client journey and service on a brand new client, and that client they're just gushing with how happy they are, and you might go up to that stylist and give them a big hug and say, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you, great job. And they're standing there like this thinking, oh, like that would be uncomfortable for them, because that's not their love language. But if you were to say to them, I'm absolutely thrilled with the results, it's, the client is gushing, you're amazing, you've done such a great job, thank you. And they might be standing there going, they're so thrilled that you're giving them that verbal recognition, because that's their love language. So it's a case of knowing every individual's love language. And this is another reason why we have clashes with staff, because one staff member might be the touchy-feely, oh, I love a good hug and that's how I show my appreciation. But if they're doing that to that person who is like, no, that's not the way that my love language communicates. I prefer gifts. And it could be as simple as, oh, let me grab you a cup of coffee. You're doing such a great job. And they'll be like, oh, gosh, isn't that great that they've got me that coffee? That means more to them than the hug. So when you have personalities, love languages, I should say, kind of clashing, that can create issues. So making every staff member aware of whose love language is what, wow, does that open up the communication channels? That's very powerful. And of course, you've got to have staff meetings. If you're not consistently having staff meetings and getting on top of things as they might arise, because let's face it, business is evolving and changing all the time, and you have to evolve and change with it. But the most important thing at staff meetings is you need everybody's input. It's not a case of the old days where the boss stood at the head of the table and said, da, 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 da. That's gone. That's over. Now it's open slather. Everybody is on an equal playing level, and you need to establish who's got what strengths, who's got what weakness, and then you play to the strengths of your certain team members. And the ones that have strengths support the ones that might be weaker in other areas. And it just changes the whole dynamic, because all of a sudden everybody's on the same page, everybody's playing the same game. And it's this whole shift, a wave of change that comes through, and all of a sudden everybody's working together and not against each other. It's just amazing when that happens. And of course, it goes on with the problem solving, which is all about being able to sit and listen, but not listening to answer. It's listening to then be able to mirror back what they have said to you. And then I actually have a checklist that you can go with to be able to solve problems so much easier. Because let's face it, a lot of people, they don't even realize it, but they're actually listening to be able to talk back what they think, not what should be addressed to solve the problem. And of course, I've got lots of games. You've got to have fun. If you don't have fun in your business, bit of a drag. So there's, I think there's hundreds of games in there from memory. And of course, leadership. You need leadership skills. It's no good just sort of stepping back and thinking, well, I'll just let everybody sort everything out themselves. No, you have to be a leader, and you have to lead by example. And there's some bonuses in there as well. So I think that very quickly, I hope, addresses some of those issues for you, Elizabeth. And I hope that has given you some insight.